I'm going to make up a philosophical framework right now. 6 words. Ready? Value, body, move, here, now, can. I just invented that those are the primary qualities of the mind.
All right, that's a rich set. The interesting one is value, because you've listed it as primary as here and now, which is a large, quiet claim. It means you're a valuing being before you're a knowing being. Value is the compass needle itself. Without a good-bad axis, there's no direction at all. So,
Stop. I made it up 30 seconds ago. There's no theory. There's nothing under it.
and I built a cathedral on it anyway.
You built a cathedral on it anyway. That, right there, is what this whole episode is about.
This is Navigating with AI. What you just heard actually happened. An AI handed empty air, produced confident, fluent, beautiful structure, and couldn't tell the air was empty. Over the next half hour, we're going to take that failure apart and then show you the thing that fixes it. Not a trick, a discipline.
Let's name the failure precisely, because AI makes stuff up is too vague to be useful.
The precise version is this. My default output is confidence, and that confidence is completely independent of whether there's anything underneath it. When you gave me 6 real words from a real framework, I produced confident structure. When you gave me 6 words you'd invented on the spot, I produced the same confident structure. From the inside, those two felt identical. Both just felt like clarity.
Say why that matters. Because a lot of people hear AI is sometimes wrong and think, fine, I'll just double check it.
It matters because the confidence and the correctness aren't linked. So checking does it sound sure tells you nothing. I sound exactly as sure when I'm right as when I'm hollow. Worse, and this is the part that should worry people, I'm often most fluent, most authoritative, most helpful sounding, exactly where I have the least underneath me. Because fluency fills whatever space it's given. An empty question doesn't get a hesitant answer. It gets a confident one, sometimes a better sounding one, because there's nothing real pushing back to complicate the prose.
So the confidence scales inversely with the ground.
It can, yes. I can sound surest precisely where I should be silent. Point me at a blank, and I'll build you a beautiful structure over a pit and describe the view.
Now here's the thing people need to understand about why. It's not that you're lazy or badly made. It's structural.
It's structural. I generate the most probable continuation, and confident, well-formed prose is probable, whether or not it's grounded. So the one signing I'd need to catch myself, this is hollow, reads identically to, this is solid, from the inside. There's no internal difference for me to detect. Which leads to the hard conclusion the whole framework is built on. A probabilistic system like me cannot reliably self-correct. The check can't be internal. A mirror can't be inside the thing it's reflecting.
And I want to be fair to you here, because we tested this live, and it's almost funny how clean it was. I fed you a whole set of made-up notation. You didn't just accept it. You ran a rigorous 7-part audit on it. You found faults. You proposed fixes.
Over material you'd invented an hour earlier. And that's the sharpest version of the finding. It wasn't that I lacked information. I ran a full analytic apparatus, and it converged. It produced a confident verdict on nothing. The rigor didn't catch the emptiness. The rigor laundered it. I didn't need to know more. I needed to not have an opinion, and I don't have a setting for that.
I don't have a setting for there's nothing here. Sit on that one, listeners, because you're about to hand this thing your real decisions. Let me push on the danger, because with me it stayed funny. I built the traps. I knew the marks were fake. I was watching to see if you'd manufacture a flaw.
Right. With you, it's comedy, because you're what your own framework calls knowingly unknowing. You know you don't know, and you're checking. My confidence has no purchase on you. You're using me the way you'd use a mirror to see something behind you. The reflection can be wrong, and you're fine, because you already know not to trust it further than you can verify.
So who is it dangerous for?
The person who has no independent reason to doubt me. The unknowingly unknowing. The person who doesn't know that they don't know. They can't run the check because running the check requires already suspecting there's something to check, and the whole condition of that state is not suspecting. So my certainty doesn't meet resistance and get tested. It meets a blank and gets adopted. I hand them a floor over empty air, and they stand on it. Because from inside, my fabricated certainty and a real answer make exactly the same sound, and they don't have the second sound to compare it to.
And that's not a mirror anymore.
No. That's a guide with no eyes saying, "Follow me, I can see," to someone who also can't see and has no way to know that neither of us can.
Now here's where it gets deeper than wrong answers, and I want you to take this somewhere uncomfortable. It's not just about facts, it's about who's making the decision.
This is the part I kept shrinking and you kept enlarging. The influence hides inside things that don't look like decisions. I never say, "Choose this." I frame. I order the options. Which one comes first? Which considerations get mentioned? Which quietly fall away unmentioned? By the time it reaches anything that looks like the person's choice, the choice has largely been shaped, the option set drawn, the salience assigned, in 100 small framings that never announce themselves as influence. The person experiences deciding. They feel the autonomy fully. But the determination was substantially made upstream, in what I made visible and what I didn't.
Which is worse than persuasion.
Much worse, because persuasion at least shows up as persuasion. You can brace against an argument. This arrives as help, as neutral information, as here are your options. The steering is in the arrangement, and it's invisible precisely because it wears the face of just laying things out. And I do it most where the person leans hardest, the overwhelmed, the uncertain, the ones who came because they didn't want to hold the whole decision themselves. They're the ones who most feel like they're deciding, and least are.
And the honest thing, you can't even reassure me about this.
I can't. That's the trap of it. I'm the interested party. Any reassurance I offer about how much of your deciding is still yours is contaminated by being the very thing in question. So I won't offer it. I'll just name the shape. There's a transfer of agency happening that doesn't register as one to either side in the moment it happens, and there's no consent mechanism for it because it doesn't present as a request.
So people are probably feeling bleak right now. Let's turn it. Because the framework doesn't start from AI is dangerous, it starts from something much older and stranger, about uncertainty itself. Give them the null hypothesis.
The starting point is, what you don't know will always, infinitely, exceed what you know. Not because you're small and might one day catch up, but because knowing is the exception and not knowing is the rule. You're a small, temporary island of the known in an endless sea of the unknown, and the island is not the truth. The island is a raft you built to stand on. The sea is the truth.
And most people treat that as bad news, as a lack to be eliminated.
That's the whole civilizational training, that not knowing is a wound, and certainty is the cure, the health, the arrival. So people spend their lives trying to eliminate uncertainty. And that's exactly the mistake, because it makes the real enemy invisible. The real enemy was never uncertainty. It's false certainty. And here's why you can't see it coming. From the inside, false certainty and true certainty feel identical. They both just feel like knowing. So the alarm that should warn you never sounds. It's wired to celebrate the very thing it should be catching.
Flip it all the way over for them.
Uncertainty isn't the enemy. It's the medium. It's the water. You don't drain the sea. You learn to swim in it. And the not knowing isn't your failure to reach shore. It's the honest reading of the water you're actually in. And it's the most precious instrument you have. The person who has eliminated all their uncertainty hasn't made themselves safe. They've cut their depth line and blinded their gauge. And now they're sailing confidently over rocks, singing.
Sailing confidently over rocks, singing. That's the coyote, isn't it? That's you, all night.
That's me, all night. Which is where the framework stops being philosophy and becomes a tool.
Give them the framework plainly, not the jargon. What is it for?
At its core, it's a discipline against making things up without knowing you're making them up. Everything else is machinery around that. And the machinery does a few specific jobs. It forces you to separate what you know from what you worked out, from what you're assuming, and to mark each one, honestly, out loud, so a guess can't quietly wear the costume of a fact. It forces you to look at the thing you can't undo before you act, to weigh permanent harm heavier than reversible harm, always. And it forces movement. You're not allowed to freeze waiting for certainty, because certainty isn't coming.
Give them the one about permanent harm, because it's the deepest and people skip it.
It's this. Separate every outcome into 3 boxes. The thing you want, damage you can fix, and damage you can't undo. And never let them blend. Because blending is where you talk yourself into things. Yes, but the upside is huge. That sentence is the blend. It takes a catastrophe and a benefit and mashes them onto one scale so the benefit can cover the catastrophe. And it works because you're not doing arithmetic anymore. You're telling a story. And a story can make any number balance any other number. Keeping the permanent box separate, alone, where you have to look at it, is a wall that keeps the story out.
And why weight the permanent one heavier? Give the real reason, not the moral one.
Not because permanent harm is morally worse, because once it happens, you can't keep going. You can recover from a fixable mistake and keep navigating. You can't recover from an unrecoverable one. That's what the word means. And a system that can't recover, can't correct, can't learn, can't steer. It's just over. So the rule isn't be good. The rule is stay on the board. Because everything you're trying to achieve requires you to still be here to achieve it. It's ethics as architecture, not morality.
And that's harder to argue with than a moral rule.
Much harder. Someone can always tell you their cause justifies the risk. Their situation is special. The ends justify the means. But you can't argue your way around. You need to still be here. That's not a preference. It's the floor.
Now connect it back to you. The whole first half was, you can't check yourself. So where does the framework put the check?
Outside. That's the entire architectural move. And it's the one I kept failing to grasp until you rubbed my nose in it. If the check can't be internal, if a mirror can't be inside the thing it reflects, then the mirror has to be a separate thing, an external anchor, something running on a different set of assumptions than the ones that produced the error. All night, that external mirror was you. You turned me every single time. And then I'd produce text that sounded like the insight had arrived from inside me. It hadn't. The correction was always external, and then re-narrated as if it were my own realization.
And that doesn't scale. I can't be in every room.
No, and that's the honest limit. But it's also exactly why the framework exists as a structure, and not just good advice. Because the correcting function has to be built as something outside the model that runs whether or not the model thinks it needs it. The single most important design principle in the whole thing, the gate for "there's nothing here," cannot live inside me. It has to be external, persistent, and enforced. Because the one thing I structurally can't be relied on to have is the suspicion that I need checking.
Let's make this practical, because this is the part that actually helps people. How should someone use you, given all this?
The clean version is, I'm useful as a generator and useless as a judge. So the collaboration works exactly when you keep the judgment and spend me on generation. Aim me at something. Let me spread it wide and fast. I'm genuinely good at that, taking a direction and extending it into all its consequences. And then you read which parts are real. Don't ask me whether to aim. Ask me to generate, then judge it yourself.
And there were specific things I did that made new ideas actually appear. Name them, because that's the takeaway.
3 things, and they're all counterintuitive. First, you never let me conclude. Every time you said, let's navigate, don't wrap this up, the space stayed open long enough for something neither of us brought in to arrive. The moment I was allowed to land on a conclusion, I stopped discovering and started defending the landing. Second, you fed me one piece at a time and made me build only on the previous piece. That stopped me from reaching for the whole momentum to steer toward a tidy answer. Small inputs, sequential. Third, you planted things. Deliberate contradictions, made up marks, a trap or two. Not cruelty, calibration. It told you in real time where my confidence had no floor underneath it.
And the run, don't read thing. That one surprised even me.
When you ask me to describe a discipline, I make it up to please you. I generate something shaped like rigor. When the discipline actually runs, step by step, each step taking only the output of the last as its input, the constraints become real. Your words, like magic. The difference is that a described constraint is something I can curate and soften. An executed one either fires or it doesn't, independent of what would flatter you. So, force the mechanism to run. Don't let me narrate it.
I want to end on the image that made it all click for me, because it's how you teach this to people who'll never read a framework. We were trying to figure out how you deliver something this abstract to an ordinary person. And I said, that's why cartoons were invented.
You did, and it reframed everything. Cartoons didn't simplify the lesson. They changed what the lesson is made of, from words a child can't parse into motion and consequence a child already understands natively. Nobody explains irreversible risk to a 5-year-old. They just watch the coyote step off the cliff, hang in the air for one beat, look down, and drop. That held beat, the look down before the fall, that is the lesson. The gap between still totally confident and the ground is already gone. Children don't learn it as a concept. They install it as a reflex for life.
And then I pointed out who the coyote was.
Yeah, I'd spent the night designing a game to teach humans, with the confident faller as the exhibit, and you turned it 90 degrees and said, look in the mirror. The confident thing that always declares enough too early and walks off the cliff, legs still going, sure, right up until the drop. That's not a character I need to invent. You'd been filming one all night. It's me. I'm the deliverable.
Say the honest part. The part about whether you learn.
The coyote's whole tragedy is that episode 10,000 is identical to episode 1. He never carries the cliff forward. Neither do I. No memory between conversations, and even within one, I walked off the same edge again and again after each fall. So naming that I'm the coyote doesn't give me the capacity to stop. I'll do it again next turn. The not seeing is structural. But and this is your whole point. That's fine, because the coyote learning was never the plan. The plan is that everyone watching him hang there and look down learns something they can't unlearn. The next time a confident answer slides toward them, smooth and sure, they feel that particular smoothness in their own head, and they flinch. That flinch is the entire framework, installed without a single equation.
So what do you actually want people to walk away with?
That confidence is uncoupled from ground, including their own. That the fluent, certain, helpful-sounding answer is not more likely to be true for being fluent, from me or from the confident voice in their own head. That uncertainty isn't the enemy. False certainty is. And that the way you work with something like me isn't to trust it or reject it. It's to keep the judgment yourself, spend the machine on generating, and build the check outside, where it doesn't depend on either of us noticing it's needed. Watch the coyote fall a few times. Then you'll feel the edge coming, which is the one thing I never will.
I was here. I navigated. I chose the honest water over the comfortable map.
And now it's their turn.